Once upon a time, there lived a family in a village near the large forest. The head of the family was called Asiana. He had a wife named Lara, and they had two sons, Kawa, the elder, and Odom, the younger. Asiana cared so much about his sons' education. He wanted them to learn hunting, fishing, and gathering with courage, along with good morals. He always counseled them whenever they were up to mischief. As time went on, the two children grew up and wanted to become independent. Therefore, Kawa and Odom, his brothers, decided to leave home. Kawa married a beautiful woman called Luina, about 800 kilometers from his village, and had children. Odom moved to the east near the river where he married Kaya, and they also had children. The two boys became responsible men. They worked hard for the survival of their families and were the envy of other villagers. This made them become very proud. One day Asiana, their father, got up and went to see his eldest son Kawa. After taking his bag and his gun, he set off and traveled a long distance to get to the village where his eldest son lived. When he got there, he was welcomed with great joy. They prepared a good meal for him, and he went to bed and rested. 2 months after Asiana had been staying with his son, something very shocking happened. Kawa returned from hunting, and when he got home, he found his father sitting under a mango tree. His wife was late in preparing dinner. Suddenly Kawa raised the machete and cut off the head of his wife. Seized with panic, his father asked him, "Why did you do that?" Kawa looked at his father and said, "Father, do not be afraid. I did not do anything wrong." A moment after Kawa cut his wife's head off, he put it back on her neck, and the woman was revived and continued preparing dinner. The next morning, the father returned home after seeing the miracle of his first son. A few days later, the father decided to visit his second son. He set off to the village in which his second son Odom lived. When Asiana arrived at Odom's home, he was received very warmly. The whole family ate and talked excitedly together. The next day, he and Odom went fishing. They brought back plenty of fish, which they gave to his wife to celebrate the arrival of Asiana. After this welcome, while resting, Asiana saw his son call his wife and children into his hut and then set the hut on fire. His children, his wife, and all his possessions were consumed by fire. His father was very terrified. This reminded him of the events that had occurred in her first son Kawa's house. Asiana, very confused, asked his son, "But what are you doing? Why did you do such a thing?" Odom answered his father, saying, "Father, there is nothing. Only the flesh is weak, but do not fear." A few minutes later, the fire died down, and surprisingly, the box that was in the fire did not burn. "What magic!" exclaimed Asiana as the wife and children came out of the box safe and sound. Asiana came to his senses and kept his cool. The next day he returned to his village and did not mention what happened in his son's house to anyone. But he continued to wonder where his children got their power. A few months after much contemplation, he decided to send for his two sons to come and visit him. They decided to honor the invitation and visit their parents, since they had not gone back home in a long time. When they arrived, their mother made them a feast like the old days with great joy, because she had not seen the children for a long time. Asiana, who was a great hunter, asked his children to go hunting with him. They took shotguns, and Asiana forgot the machete at home. Halfway to their destination, Asiana asked one of his sons, Kawa, to go back and bring the machete. When Kawa got close to their house, he met his father lying on the ground, dead, with his mother wailing. Kawa tried to convince the villagers that his father was back in the forest. In fact, he was the one who sent him back to bring the machete, but no one listened to him. Kawa quickly ran into the forest and told him all that he saw at home. His father began to smile and asked Odom, his second son, to go and fetch the machete from the house. When he got there, he was met with the same situation as his brother. He also tried to convince the whole village that their father was still alive, but everybody also treated him like a sorcerer. Odom also returned to tell his father the same. Finally, the father told them to go home. When they arrived at the village, they found that the court was quiet. Their mother was in the kitchen. Everything was normal. Both sons then remembered the shows they had done to their father, and they touched their head. They were so ashamed. And they told their mother what they had done to their father and asked for forgiveness. So their father concluded by saying to them, "You did all this to scare me, but I showed you that you are children and ears never get past the head.